So, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure for me as the mayor of Oslo to welcome you all to Oslo and to the City Hall. My name is Marianne Borgen and I'm the mayor here in the city of Oslo. I have welcomed many people in different contexts to events that have taken place in this hall, but never before from a room within the hall, so to speak. I hereby bid you my warmest and most heartfelt welcome to Oslo, the city, and also to City Hall, and to this fascinating art project. Studio Jonas Stahl has created this structure, named New World Embassy Rojava. It is an imaginary embassy where art meets politics. This has been made possible thanks to the strong endorsement of Public Art Norway, KORO, and marks the official closing of the Oslo Architectural Triennale, which I had the pleasure of welcoming here for the opening reception the 9th of September this year. City Hall is a proud landmark in Oslo. It is the city's political heart, and it reflects the ambitions of our city's leaders 100 years ago. They wanted to create a public building that would be open for the people, a place both for decision-making, discussions, and for celebrations. In its dimensions, it would be fair to say that it aspires to be a secular cathedral. Some will say that the inspiration for this room and its dimensions is like the Italian piazza. In that sense, we can imagine it as a public space where people can come together to trade, to exchange thoughts and ideas, and proclaim their opinion on a given matter in public. In addition, this room is has a very strong symbolic value. As the venue of the annual Nobel Peace Prize ceremony that takes place just in this room every year, the 10th of December. We are in Oslo very proud to invite in artists that can challenge our concepts of art and politics. In Norway, we believe in the principle of rule of law. This building was inaugurated in 1950. But the law, which is quoted high up in the eastern wall outside of this imaginary embassy, dates many centuries back. In Norwegian it reads, "Av lov skal landet bygges, og ikke med ulov ødes." In English that will be, "With law shall our land be built and not desolated by lawlessness." I hope this is a principle we all can agree on, even though the text dates from the time when kings ruled believing they had the divine right to power. We now share the belief that power comes from people. Many will argue that democracy is not perfect, but it is our best model of governance. Then again, one might ask, what is democracy? The original Athenian version was a direct democracy based on public meetings. The Norwegian model is based on a representative or indirect democracy where the people delegate their power to their elected representatives for a limited period of time. This commits us as politicians to have a close and continuous dialogue with the citizens in relation to all parts of policy development in Oslo. Also in Oslo, people can continuously send citizen initiatives to the City Council. as long as 300 people or more sign the initiative. It would be fair to say that Norway has been ruled according to democratic principles since we got our constitution in 1814. It was, however, only back in 1898 that all adult males got the right to vote. And it is only since 1913, when also women were included, that we can actually talk about a true democracy for all. Still, in order to secure the democracy prevails, that the democracy prevails in the future, we have to be open to debate how our system works and whether or not it is able to include all of our citizens. I believe the time has come to consider, for instance here in Norway, to extend the right to vote also to those aged 16. It is important to debate how we can get more young people involved in some municipalities here in Norway. This has been tested in local elections. When we look at the turnout of local elections, I feel that we need also here to find new ways to involve people in political decision-making processes. Children do not have the right to vote, but according to the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, they have the right to be informed and they have the right to be heard. And I don't feel that we are doing our best in that respect. Still, all meetings in the City Council are open to the public. We believe in transparency when it comes to political decisions, just as this artwork allows us to see through, to see more than one reality, to see that there are different layers to everything. Rojava is a self-proclaimed autonomous region in a country torn apart by war. Can democracy prevail in such difficult circumstances? Can we learn from their experiences? I hope that you, during this day and also tomorrow, will enjoy the debate that follows. So once again, heartily welcome to every one of you to the City Hall, and thank you so much for your attention. Thank you.
روشباش میوان نجا هون خيرة سرچوا ایرو لأوسلو روجه كينويا ما بخيرات ميهميت بكين جاري كيدي خيرة سرچوا
Kjære alle sammen, kjære gjester, velkommen til Rojava-ambassaden her på Rådhuset. Vi er veldig glad for å åpne dette arrangementet nå. Vi kommer til å snakke stort sett på engelsk. Vi har ganske mange internasjonale gjester, så for at alle skal forstå hva vi sier, så velger vi et språk flest mulig kan.
نهابري هرشتكي متخازين دقيقي بسربي راوستين بوريز قرتن لجاني همي اواني جاني خوين بختك لبيناو آزادي مروح بكان داركشت.
Now we want to ask for a moment of silence for all our friends and comrades fighting for freedom, peace and humanity.
Thank you very much.
Shane Mother.
My name is Rafi Kafour. I am head of Kurdistan National Congress, KNK. Please allow me to welcome you all on behalf of the Kurdish community in Oslo to the embassy of. A special welcome to the guests who have come from abroad. Thanks. I am also very proud that Oslo could embrace Rojava in this great and pleasant way. Thanks to the Mayor of Oslo, Marianne Borgen, and all in the City Council and Administration. Many thanks to Jonas Stahl, the light mind back this nice project and back this big project. And many thanks to everyone in his team, René, Yunus, Avid, Paul and Reko and every other, who worked hard to ensure that this project would succeed. Thanks to a ballooning agency, Oslo Architecture Tribunal, with Hanna and everyone in the team and all other contributors. Thanks to Kuro, with Bo and Christina and everyone in the team. Thanks also this community in Oslo, which shows its willingness to help with anything it could. Dear conference attendees, we are here today to hear about an alternative system in chaotic Middle East, where is war, repression, discrimination, injustice, and environmental degradation. We are here today to talk and hear about Rojava. Rojava, which wants to give human meaning to the concept of democracy. Rojava, which wants to build a really collective society that all can live side by side, instead of repression and persecution. Rojava, which wants to retrieve the human meaning of environment. Rojava, which wants to build a really gender equal society, a society that does not look to women as a problem, but as a solution. A society that will not analyze women's soul to reach justice in the world, but analyzes the world by the women's soul to reach the justice. Therefore, Rojava Revolution is called a women's revolution. Thank you once again for being here.
When the Kurdish leader Abdullah Öcalan was studying the history of Kurdistan and the Middle East, the nature of the power, the current of the economic system, he came to the conclusion that the reason for humanity's freedom problem was not the lack of a nation state, but instead the emergence of the state. The alternative to patriarchy, capitalism, and nation state is a system built on women's liberation, coexistence, ecology, and grassroots democracy. The people of Rojava built this new political system together right now. It is important for us, citizens of Oslo, that the first Rojava embassy is built here in Norway, a country with a long history of diplomacy. We hope that the Rojava embassy, as a model of people's diplomacy and people's democracy, will create new collaborations, exchanges, and friendships. This way, we can confront the crisis of democracy all over the world. Yesterday was the International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women. Men's violence against women is a problem all over the world. And we stand together in this fight and in solidarity with our sister. We have received a message from Rojava, YPG, the Women's Defense Units yesterday, saying, A society and a new reality for women is the result of the women's revolution, the revolution that came to life in Rojava under the leadership of women has given a voice to women everywhere. With these words, I want to give a special thanks to our comrades and sisters from Rojava. And now, the program will start. But before that, our friends and our hardworking friends from a New World Summit will say some words about the project and thanks a lot of people who has been working in this project. Jonas.
Gerrit, Hewa, Sjare, Wenne, welkom. Welcome to all of you, friends from all over the world. A practical note, there are still people trying to come in. This is the benefit of benches. The more we squeeze in, the more people we can get in. So I suggest everyone outside, keep trying. And otherwise, there's the balconies all around us in this wonderful building that allows to follow the program. This is the third word of welcome, and it's going to be a bit of a long one when it comes to thanking a lot of people. So please bear with me for a moment. As Seher and Rafik said, my name is Jonas Staal. I'm the artist and founder of the New World Summit. And together with the democratic self-administration of Rojava and the Kurdish communities of Oslo, we have created the New World Embassy of Rojava, in which we are all here assembled now. This project is hosted by the Oslo City Hall, commissioned by the Oslo Architecture Triennial and its curatorial team After Belonging. And it is co-produced by Coro Public Art Norway Uro, and I also welcome all the online viewers. This whole program is live streamed internationally and can be followed on newworldsummit.org. The New World Summit consists of many members from the field of art, design, architecture, philosophy, diplomacy, and our task in the past 4 years has been to create what we call alternative parliaments, academies, embassies. And in these platforms, we invite stateless and blacklisted organizations from all over the world, from the Basque Country to Kurdistan, from Balochistan to Somaliland, from Azawad to Tamil, Elan and West Papua. Many of these organizations are rooted in long histories of anti-colonial and liberational struggle. And today, in the now 15-year-old war on terror, many of them are criminalized, blacklisted, because the war on terror in the name of democracy makes democracy impossible. So we try to create spaces in which international communities can assemble with these organizations, where civil society can assemble with these organizations. And we try to create in these spaces, like this embassy here, new bonds, new connections, new friendships between those in whose name the war on terror is being waged and those against whom the war on terror is being waged. The Kurdish revolutionary movement has been involved in our organization from the very beginning. And their struggle is of crucial importance for all of us today. Not only because of the systemic repression that the Kurdish people face in Bakur, and some would say southeast Turkey, we say Bakur, and in Rojava, some would say northern Syria, we say Rojava. But it is also a crucial movement because they bring about a radical new democratic alternative. Already in the early years of the Kurdish movement, Kurdish revolutionary Sakina Jansiz spoke of the necessity, and I quote her, to wage an ideological struggle against denial, against social chauvinistic impression, primitive and nationalist approaches, end quote. And Sakina Jansis here speaks of what she considers to be the colonial, the patriarchal, and the imperialist model of the nation state. The Kurdish thinker and revolutionary Abdullah Öcalan transformed this critique of the nation state into a completely new democratic model, which he calls democratic confederalism. Öcalan asks, how can the Kurdish people, divided through 4 different states, colonized by 4 different states, how can they be liberated through a state of their own? The state, Öcalan concludes, is not a solution. The state is the problem. Democratic confederalism, he explains, should instead be understood as a democracy without the state, as a stateless democracy. He describes this model, and I quote him, as a type of political self-administration where all groups of society and all cultural identities can express themselves in local meetings, general conventions, and councils. This understanding of democracy opens the political space to all strata of society and allows for the formation of different and diverse political groups. Politics becomes part of everyday life. End of quote by Abdullah Öcalan. And this stateless democracy is not theory. At the start of the Syrian civil war, Kurdish revolutionaries joined forces with Arab and Assyrian peoples to declare the northern part of Syria, Rojava, autonomous. And while having to defend themselves against the Assad regime, against the Erdogan regime, and most of all against the Islamic State, most famously during the siege of the city of Kobani, Rojava, against all odds, was able to develop this model of stateless democracy on a large scale. And this is how the democratic self-administration of Rojava, the partner in this project, and we're so proud to work with them, has come into being. We as the New World Summit traveled to Rojava many times. In Rojava we witnessed the work of the self-organized women's and people's protection units, the YPG and the YPG. We witnessed many local councils and local parliaments that work on the practice of day-to-day self-governance in the absence of a centralized state. And we witnessed new schools and new academies where history and science is taught from a stateless perspective. Now, what does all of that have to do with art and architecture and design? How did a cultural collaboration between the New World Summit and the democratic self-administration of Rojava came into being? I would like to ask you to turn to the New World publication. Those who haven't received it yet, it is for free at the entrance of the building. And I would like to turn to page 20 of the New World publication, where you will see the first collaborative work between the two of us in the form of a new public parliament that is currently being built in the city of Derek in Rojava, and that was commissioned to us by Amina Osse, Deputy Chair of the Committee of Foreign Affairs of Canton Jazira in Rojava. Rojava's philosophy of stateless democracy inspired the form of this stateless parliament, page 20 of the New World publication. A circular space, this parliament. A circular space that emphasizes the power of the commune. Pillars around this space engraved with the key principles of the revolution. Flags that form a symbolic confederation of all the local organizations that are trying to make stateless democracy a reality. They form the roof of this parliament. And in this project, ideology, a new ideal, the ideal of stateless democracy, becomes formed through art. We started the construction of this parliament August 2015, and we hope to inaugurate it early this year, next year in 2017. And the space where we are gathered here today, it's another example of how new ideology, how new political ideals also inspire new forms. how new ideology inspires new art. It was conceptualized, this embassy, together with Amina also, with Sharon Hassan, Adem Uzun, discussed with Rafik Gefur and Seher Aydar that introduced this day. And our departure point was, if Rojava is a stateless democracy, then this embassy must also be a stateless embassy. As a result, together with architect Paul Kuipers and designer Remco van Bladel, we discussed how does an embassy without the state, how does it look, how does it function? And we concluded that a stateless embassy is an embassy that does not only represent the interests of a nation or a community, but it represents a set of ideals and principles, it represents an ideology. And if we look at the symbols that derive from the flags of Rojava, all around us in this space, we see rainbows, stars, suns, we see interstellar constellation. We see symbols with a socialist history, with a socialist heritage. But most of all, we see symbols of a new universalism. That is how we came to refer to this embassy, this New World Embassy of Rojava, as something of an ideological planetarium. And many of you will notice that the flags that inspired this space that you can find in the program booklets with explanation of each of these organizations, in this space, they are not exactly these flags. We see how these flags are looking for relations one to another, how they form a new constellation, a confederation. So this embassy, this artwork, this skyline is inspired by all of the relations between these different organizations. And it is no coincidence that we gather here in the Oslo City Hall. As the mayor already said, it's famous for its yearly Nobel Peace Prize ceremony, but also because it's an incredible coming together of art and architecture. You have seen the building upon entry, designed by Arnstein Arneberg and Magnus Poulsen, with a collection of incredible murals by Hendrik Sørensen, Alf Rolfsen, amongst many, many others. And as many of you might know, the construction of this building, it was started before the Second World War. It was halted due to the Nazi occupation. And when after liberation, artists were asked to make the murals in this space, the history of the war became part of this building. For example, we'll look at the mural on that side of the building in the break. You will see a painting that depicts the Nazi occupation of Norway, but it also depicts Norwegian partisans that engaged in acts of self-defense and engaged in acts of sabotage to undermine the Nazi occupiers. In other words, this building and these murals represents how art imagines the formation of a new nation. So there's an artistic dialogue in this building taking place between the artists that conceived these murals and those that created this embassy. There's a historical dialogue taking place in this building between Norwegian partisans of the past and the Rojavan partisans of the present. And there is a diplomatic dialogue taking place between Norway's ideals of progressive diplomacy and the Rojavan ideals of stateless diplomacy. So these 2 days of the New World Embassy of Rojava will be days of dialogue. We aim to understand the history and politics of Rojava, and as well as its current crisis, the implication of the West in the Syrian civil war. We aim to understand the practice of stateless democracy in Rojava and what it could mean as a new democratic horizon for the world. We aim to seek relations between the Rojavan struggle for stateless democracy and the struggle of those in the Sami parliament, the Amazigh movement, the Kel Tamasheq movements, and all the new emancipatory political movements and platforms ranging from Barcelona and Comu to Antarcia in Greece, Feminist Initiative in Sweden, DM25, and many, many more. But in the process of building this dialogue, in the process of having these discussions in the next 2 days, we hope these will also be days of action. And together with BYD representative Sharon Hassan and Catherine Mendes of Feminist Initiative in Sweden, we already discussed what could these plans of action for these coming days be. For example, we could come to an agreement to recognize the democratic self-administration of Rojava as a non-state entity, as an equal partner in peace negotiations in the Syrian war, as an equal partner in the struggle against the Islamic State, and as an equal partner in building economic and cultural exchange. And this recognition, recognizing self-administration, is something that every political party, that every municipality that is being presented here can do. Now, there are too many people to thank who made the possibility of this dialogue a reality. We thank the Oslo City Hall for their hospitality, their enthusiasm and their openness. Thank you, Remy Breivik, Rolf Kittelsen, Ole Jonny Senning, Lilf Alfheim and Mayor Marianne Borgen in particular for hosting us in your house. We wish to thank the ambassadors selected by the Democratic Self-Administration of Rojava, Azia Abdullah, Aldar Khalil, Saleh Muslim and Sinam Mohammed. It's an absolute honor to be amongst you. And we thank the panelists who came all over the world, people that will be discussing around this table from Scotland, Azawad, Libya, Catalonia, the Basque Country, India, Greece, Spain, England, the United States, Netherlands, Sweden, Norway, and many more who will be joining in conversation with our ambassadors. And then we wish to thank the Kurdish communities of Oslo, the Kurdish National Congress in Brussels, Demnet Council of Kurdish Communities in the Netherlands, the International Foundation of Free Women, and of course the Democratic Self-Administration of Rojava. Thank you, Amina Os, Sherwan Hassan, Adem Uzun, Rafik Fur, Serbest Ali, Seher Aydar, Rotin Nessar, Mazlum Django Dilar, Direk Hazin Aziz, and all of our other collaborators. It is an honor to work with you, to learn from you, and to stand here with you today. We wish to thank the Oslo Architecture Triennial and its director, Hanna Densik Pettersson, the incredible After Belonging Agency curatorial team, Luis Alexander Casanovas Blanco, Ignacio Gonzalez Galan, Carlos Miguez Carrasco, Alejandro Navarrete Liopis, and Marina Otero Versirin, in particular, for having started the dialogue to make this project happen in the first place. We thank the Koro Public Art Norway URO organization, Bo Christer Wallström, and Christine Jarn Bilgaard in particular. Bo and Christine, you have shown incredible commitment and courage and determination and also hospitality and trust, and it has been a gift to work with the two of you. I want to thank my team of the New World Summit, producer Yunus Bouadi, programmer René Indemauer, head of communication Aviva Stein, architect Paul Kuipers, designer Remco van Bladel, filmmaker Ruben Hamelink, photographer Ernie Butts, and of course the incredible Landstra and de Vries construction team that made this construction happen in only 2 days, Frits Bauko, Peter Volker Terrein, who have been working here, while our team has been working here day and night, made the impossible possible as always. And in that light, we also want to thank Arne Murk for the stage setting, the light and sound. Thank you to our volunteers. Almost there, I promise you, but many hands make new world, so we have to name all of them. Mirna, Amansh, Khalil, Mohammed, Adnan, Ahmed, Abdusalam, Visho, Ibish, Mohammed, Said, Badi, Ivar, Daniel, Sotaro, Ninya, Roserin, Mizgin, Aiden, New Compass publishers, and the countless others who have helped with construction and assisting us today. Thank you also, Ariane and Baban of the Kurdish restaurant Ararat, that have been helping us with collective dinners for our speakers and audience. You have all received in the book also a dinner invite. You are all invited for dinner tonight at the Urokoro headquarters. And the Kurdish families of Salah, Babi Hassan, Omran, that host so many of our international visitors, have opened their doors. And I want to thank musicians Nabaz and Hussein. Our faults, of course, go to our collaborators in Rojava, those that are standing at the front lines against the Islamic State, at the front lines to build a new civil society, that are forced to fight the Islamic State Erdogan regime. And we stand here with you in solidarity. Most of all, we stand here with you in friendship. So, dear friends, we're coming to a close, finally. We are here all gathered at a historical crossroad in time. We are witnessing the manifestation of massive authoritarian regimes the world over. We meet here in a moment in time in which, unfortunately, fascism is not the word of the past. Fascism is a word that marks a terrifying present that is manifesting here in front of us, right in front of our eyes. Now, as some of you might know, yesterday a great revolutionary of the past, Fidel Castro, died. He was, of course, a great example of those movements, those protest movements, progressive movements that emerged in the 60s and 70s. Just like the Zapatista movement was an example in the 90s, and today the Rojava revolution is an example to rethink new models of politics in the 21st century. So here in this space, it is up to us to establish the collaborations, the alliances, the friendships through which we can create genuine alternatives for international and egalitarian society. Rojava stateless democracy is a concrete model through which we can make such alliances a reality. I will move a little bit to the left because I will refer to PYD co-president Saleh Muslim, one of the ambassadors present here today, and he said a few very important words when he spoke of the efforts to establish stateless democracy in Rojava. And I quote him: "The Rojava revolution is a revolution of life. And as such, our struggle is a struggle for humanity." And I hope that these words of Saleh Muslim will be our guide to create and establish many new worlds in the coming 2 days. Thank you so much.